Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, to Bolt fam, it's the director. Chargers fans, how we doing, everybody? I'll tell you, I'm starting to feel a little bit better. I'm starting to get excited about the offseason and all the things, towards the end of the Chargers year. I know there's still some people out there bummed. I still really am bummed, but after a bit of time to grieve, my focus is firmly on the 2023 season. So you guys in the comment section below, let me know how you're holding up. So the Chargers offensive coordinator hunt is beginning to heat up. You guys remember a video we put out last week talking about some of my favorite guys. Well, this week, I want to talk about who the Chargers are actually pursuing. We've got names now, folks. We got names in the hat for the Chargers to start sorting, interviewing, finding out if they're a fit, if they follow the system, the scheme that the Chargers are looking to implement in Los Angeles. There's some good stuff in here, man. There's some names that honestly not on my radar. After doing a little bit of digging, maybe grabs my intrigue just a little bit. And then there's other guys that maybe were on my radar, but at the same time, I didn't really think we were going to get an interview with them. At this point, nothing really is confirmed, but honestly, you guys will probably see his name in the title. Joe Brady has been requested an interview by the Chargers. I think that's one that would get people pretty excited. Me, certainly. If you guys don't know, you're about to know. We're going to go over some of the ins and outs of the names of the Chargers offensive coordinators that have been requested interviews and hopefully pushing this team into the right direction in 2023. Should be a pretty good time. Now, before we do get started, guys, well, let's give a shout out to the sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Let's go ahead and click on this guy right here. I don't know about you guys. I'm excited to see if the Cincinnati Bengals can take down the Kansas City Chiefs yet again this upcoming weekend. I decided to throw down a little bit, make that game extra entertaining. If you guys want to get in on the action, use code DIRECTOR to match your first deposit up to $100. Get in on the action that way. And it should be a fun weekend of NFL football. Now, before we do kick off, hit us up with a like and sub if you do enjoy this Chargers content. The small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. The Chargers offensive coordinator hunt is beginning to heat up. And yes, we're going to be talking a little bit about Joe Brady as we continue on in this video. So the first thing I wanted to kick things off with, because we talked quite a bit about things in the last video, right? A little bit of Mike LaFleur, a little bit of Dan Pitcher, a little bit of Nathaniel Hackett, but we don't talk about that. We also talked a little bit about this man over here, Frank Reich, the favorite for Chargers fans to hopefully land the head coaching, or I should say the offensive coordinator position. Reich's ability to build an offense pretty much around any quarterback is a massive strength for pretty much every team. We saw him do a flurry of quarterbacks with the Indianapolis Colts. Carson Wentz found some success. Phillip Rivers went to the playoffs with an 11-5 season. This guy really has moved the needle in the right direction for his coaching career, and Chargers fans want him back. He was an offense coordinator with the team many years ago. He's really turned a corner since then. Now, as of right now, I haven't really heard anything regarding the Chargers requesting an interview. It's probably due likely because he's actually out there interviewing for head coaching positions. Right now, the last I've heard is that he's the favorite to land the head coaching position for the Carolina Panthers. So at the end of every one of these segments, I'm going to give you guys my perspective on what I think the chances are he signs with us as an offensive coordinator. We'll call it the OC chance. Okay, so the OC chance for me on Frank Reich right now is hovering somewhere around 5%. I don't think we've even talked to him yet, even though he's the favorite for a lot of us. You got to at least talk to the dude before considering giving him the job. So Frank Reich, there's your update. Let's move into some of the actual names that the Chargers have been either A, requesting interviews, or B, have already interviewed. Starting with this man right here, maybe a bit of an underdog in terms of, people not really knowing the name, Jared Johnson, Vikings assistant quarterback coach. Now, Jared Johnson, I'm going to say this. It feels like the Chargers, they went after Wes Phillips, who was on the staff for the Vikings as well this season. They requested an interview. He denied him, says, hey, I want to play with Kirk Cousins, man. Who's this Justin Herbert guy? Maybe there was some sort of, medication in my oatmeal this morning that led me to this horrible conclusion to stay right put here with Kirk Cousins. Either way, it feels like they wanted Wes Phillips, didn't get him, so they're going after another mind in the building in Jared Johnson, okay? Not to say Jared Johnson wouldn't have anything to offer. I think his background background does show a little bit of excitement for Chargers fans. As a matter of fact, I kind of wanted to pull up, we don't really do this often on the channel, but at least the Wikipedia article so you guys can see, what we're trying to back up here. Here as a player, you guys will notice that he was around for a long time, very many different teams, many different leagues, as a matter of fact, and he kind of just started his coaching career, which began with the Niners. Now, again, a lot of you guys will know that the Niners, that's kind of the system the Chargers are trying to adopt right now. Very heavy in terms of zone run, play action, that Shanahan tree or the Shanahan system. So having some connection there does help. But there's not there's not a lot of experience in terms of coaching quite yet. He did coach under Shanahan, which, again, that's a big boost. He also coached with Frank Reich in the Indianapolis Colts, which, again, this may be something the Chargers are trying to implement there. Former quarterback, he's got experience there. Maybe he would be a good guy to bring in the building for the Chargers. But at this point right now, again, the lack of experience does kind of make me weigh, why they're going after Jared Johnson in the first place. Maybe it's his connection to Frank Reich. Maybe there is a chance that he comes in as in a different position if the Chargers were to pursue Frank Reich. But at this point, I'm going to give this OC chance about 5%. I think there's definitely better names on the list, but who knows? Jared Johnson, maybe they bring him in, we dig up some more stuff on him, and maybe he brings in a system that we like in terms of passing. But there you go. Jared Johnson, one of those first guys officially labeled as interviewed by the Chargers. Next up, we got Greg Olsen. No, not the Greg Olsen we all grew up loving, the tight ends for the Carolina Panthers. No, it's going to be Greg Olsen, formerly of the Los Angeles Rams. I think he's been coaching them the last year or so. The senior offensive assistant, I think, was his official job title. And this man is legendary, man. This man he built a legacy with Gruden and the Vegas Raiders, a legacy of infamy. As a Chargers fan, sure, I know this guy a little bit because he was connected to one of the worst eras in Vegas Raiders football history, and I loved every second of it. Now that we're looking at him to come OC the Chargers, maybe I'm itching my wrist a little bit. Like, I'm not quite sure about this one, but I will gotta say, okay, before we completely write this guy off, this guy, if we're looking for experience, he uses experience, okay? This guy, 60 years old? He's been in the league for like 3 decades or something like that, or even close to it. I know he's coached all over the place, but somewhere over 20, 25 years coaching in the NFL. So if you're looking for experience, someone that's been around, this is the guy. Almost a journeyman of a coach, right? Similar to the Ryan Fitzpatrick, the quarterback that's been on pretty much everything. Well, this guy does have quite a list as well to go over. Let's take a look at the Greg Olsen Wikipedia page. Look at this man, dude. Washington State, Central, Idaho, Purdue, San Francisco 49ers, back to Purdue, and then 30 or 40 other teams later, we got the Los Angeles Rams as a senior offensive assistant. This man's been around, and he's had exposure to a lot of systems, a lot of schemes that the Chargers would be looking for. Not to mention that there are blips, I will say blips, of flashes in terms of his performance in the past, couple of decades now. He did help, you guys remember this name, Blake Bortles with the Jacksonville Jaguars back in 2015, 2016. That team sucked before Greg Olsen entered the building, and he did improve that offense in quite a bit. A little later on, he moved on to the Vegas Raiders. This was horrible, and this is why a lot of Chargers fans are going to say no, sir. You guys see this right here? This was the era of football that the Chargers fans are saying we do not want to see any shadow, any semblance of what happened to the Vegas Raiders on the Chargers. Now, again, I'm trying to play both sides here a little bit, okay? How much of this was Greg Olsen, and really how much of it was John Gruden? Because John Gruden, we're talking about an epic collapse. That's the thing tattooed on the forehead of a John Gruden at this point. What a disaster that turned out to be. Still, you have to put that in the back of your minds a little bit. Are we going to see something similar to the Vegas Raiders in that collapse, or are we going to see something like where he helped Blake Bortles? And in some cases, this must have been Jared Goff, who definitely had a pretty decent, string of years with the Los Angeles Rams. Who knows? I won't completely write him off, but this is not a name that would get me especially excited if the Chargers decided to pursue him. So we're going to give this OC chance maybe 15%. He's got connections to the McVay tree. He's got connections, pretty much anywhere. You throw a rock, you'll find a different system that he coached with. Either way, definitely not one of my favorites, and I'll give it about a 15% chance because of the experience he'd be bringing to the table for Coach Staley. Next up is a name that kind of threw me off a little bit. I don't think once I heard this name muttered in terms of Chargers potential OC hires. His name is Luke Steckel. tight ends coach for the Tennessee Titans. Now, when I was taking a look at this guy, I'm not quite sure in terms of dots connecting him to the McVay tree or the Shanahan tree. I saw very few of that. I think there was one coach that he worked with in Tennessee, briefly coached with Shanahan back in the day. But again, with most of these candidates, you're seeing a pretty direct line of royalty, right? A bloodline connecting back to the Shanahan or McVay tree. This one, not so much. Hence why maybe a lot of Chargers fans didn't really have him on his radar. But hey, he's getting requests, okay? So he's among commodities. The Chargers are doing their due diligence. It feels like his name's got to be on the radar for a reason. Now, funny enough to me, it feels like, because again, right now, a tight end coach, right? Offensive assistant coach, assistant wide receivers coach. He's kind of been around a long time with the Tennessee Titans. As a tight ends coach right now, looking at that team, looking what the tight ends do with the Tennessee Titans, looking at the philosophies of that offense as a whole, I feel like he's being looked at for his possible run game expertise, right? We're talking about the team that features a King Henry, right? One of the most successful running teams in the NFL. Now, how much of that is because of Derrick Henry? How much of that is because of Luke Steckel? Who knows? But he has philosophies that could translate to the Chargers and helping them figure out their run game. The Chargers' run game right now doesn't look great. Maybe a guy like Luke Steckel can help turn things around just a little bit. So I think his philosophies in terms of the run game, more specifically behind blocking, right? Because you take a look at the tight ends, you take a look at the philosophies of the offense of Tennessee, blocking is superbly important. That could be something that the Chargers could use, especially if the Chargers are looking to gear towards, a Shanahan-style offense, a lot of zone blocking, maybe a little bit more complex for the offensive line tight ends. Maybe Luke Steckel fits the bill. I'm going to give him about a 10% chance. I think I like him a little bit more than guys like Jared Johnson, the possibility more than a Frank Reich. But at the same time, who knows? Again, I don't actually hate this one. I feel like the philosophies are there. I feel like the run game should be an important thing to put into focus for the Chargers moving forward. But again, it's one that there's not a lot of information out there available. He was a player for a while. There's a background. There's background and exposure to the NFL. But again, he's been pretty much a Titan for almost his entirety as a coach in the NFL. Next up, let's talk about a name that I kind of grew to love a little bit more as I dug deeper into his background. It's going to be direct descendant of one of the systems that we're looking for. This next man's name is going to be Thomas Brown, Rams tight end coach / assistant head coach. Now, this guy, dude, for one, deep connections, obviously, to the McVay and Shanahan system. This is definitely the direction that the Chargers are going to be wanting to move in. Now, of course, you'll take a look at this last year for the Los Angeles Rams and say, hey, their offense, or in terms of their running game, wasn't really anything to write home about. But the philosophies are there. And at some point, their run game started to take off. There's a bit of confusion as to who was going to be starting. It was going to be Darnell Henderson, or was it going to be Cam Akers? A lot of drama behind the locker room in terms of that running back position. But eventually, Cam Akers turned into that running back that we all envisioned him to be, especially if you played fantasy football. Dear God, thank you. He started to turn it on in the end of the season. And that's the kind of potential you're going to see behind a run game-led Thomas Brown, because his expertise largely revolves around the running game, just like Luke Steckel. Chargers need help here. And he also runs a system that fits exactly what we need. I know Cam Akers isn't going to be your Derrick Henry out there, but he's got a lot of talent. If you take one look at Austin Eckler and say he doesn't have talent, check yourself into the nearest asylum, because we got one of the most talented running backs in the NFL. We just got to get this man free. And it feels like a zone running system is a perfect environment for a guy like Austin Eckler to thrive in. So Thomas Brown, I like him. I feel like he's getting a lot of interviews out there, too. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up on Twitter, on Facebook, whatever, but there's quite a few teams looking for the services of a Thomas Brown at this point. He's in high demand for a reason. Good system, great leadership from everything I'm reading as well. Let's take a look at his wiki real quick. Again, as a coach, he's been around for a little bit while, especially a little while longer than guys like Jared Johnson, right? Georgia, Chattanooga, Marshall, and then all the way into the NFL, the Rams pretty exclusively here. Definitely not bad, right? Again, very so much so revolving around heavily the run game. And that's something that the Chargers certainly could use a boost in. So Thomas Brown, I'm going to give him a chance of, let's say, like 50%, because he's a direct descendant of the McVay system. Did he just miss Coach Staley by a year? Maybe, I don't know. But I do feel like it's something that Coach Staley would want to see on his staff. It kind of feels like they have matching philosophies out there. So Thomas Brown, we'll say about a 50% chance. The direct lineage is there, and I feel like as a leader, as being in high demand, it feels like it's one of those guys that the Chargers would be looking after. Next up, probably one of my favorite names on this list. I know maybe some of you guys would differ in opinion, but man, do I love Zach Robinson, dude. This is the PFF guy. I know some of you guys are probably sick of the analytical views in terms of how to operate a team in the NFL, but this is something that Coach Staley follows very, very closely. And if you're looking for an analytical view sort of guy, Zach Robinson is your dude, man. He loved Justin Herbert, the PFF expert. He would fit very well with what Brandon Staley's trying to build out there. But it's beyond like that sort of mindset that gets me excited about a Zach Robinson, who, by the way, Rams quarterback coach and passing game coordinator. He's got great exposure, obviously, to the McVay tree, the Shanahan tree. This is exactly what the Chargers are looking for, right? Somebody who has the mind, who has the expertise to implement that sort of offense that puts in a lot of zone runs, play action, free up the passing a little bit, while also centering itself around the quarterback. This man is partially responsible, I would say has more of a hand in it than people give him credit for, in Matthew Stafford's legendary season with the Los Angeles Rams that resulted in a Super Bowl. There are at some points that, maybe Matt Stafford would say, hey, I prefer this, I prefer that. We identified his strengths and weaknesses. Coach Zach Robinson certainly had a role to play in adjusting, right? They adjusted to the preferences and strengths of Matt Stafford, and it paid off with a ring, man. So revolving around the quarterback, understanding the system, being highly coveted, by the way, just like Thomas Brown. He's getting, a lot of requests for interviews and stuff like that. This guy just feels right, okay? And I'm just going to say that. A gut feeling, whatever. I feel like Zach Robinson would be a really good fit. And maybe at this point, my favorite guy behind Frank Reich. Frank Reich is looking a lot less likely. Zach Robinson, on the other hand, I think there's a good shot at it, right? Let's take a look at his wiki real quick. Does he have any direct connection to Brandon Staley? And there it is. He does. He does. And we know Brandon Staley. He likes to go out there and handpick guys that he's been able to work with in the past that match those philosophies. Of course, if you bring a PFF guy anywhere near Brandon Staley, he's going to start salivating from the mouth like analytics. In this case, I kind of like that. I feel like analytics in terms of the offense, there might be a better understanding of when to run something, when not to run something, but more specifically, where to find success with the kind of personnel you've got on that offense. Austin Eckler is very unique. Centering around Justin Herbert, we want to maximize his potential if possible. So I'll just say this. I like Zach Robinson a lot, and I think there's a really good chance that he signs with the Chargers. I'm going to say OC chance at about 75%, which is definitely not anything lackluster. You notice all the previous guys, 10%, 5%, 15%. I think because of his connections to McVay, the system that he's running, there's a good chance here. And I do like Zach Robinson quite a bit. So for your consideration, Bull fam, Zach Robinson. The last name on this list is likely going to be one of the names in the title because this is an exciting prospect. And I can't tell you guys for certain if he's accepted an interview or if he's talked to the Chargers at all. But this next guy, legendary in college football, and we're hoping to see that translate to the league any day now. We got Joe Brady, I should say. Joe Brady, Bills quarterback coach currently in the NFL. This dude's crazy, man. And honestly, the potential, I don't think it's even been hit yet. I think it's been kind of lightly, danced around a little bit, especially in Buffalo. But the potential of a Joe Brady to explode at the NFL level is very, very real. Now, for those of you who don't know, Joe Brady is most famous for his legendary offense with the 2019 LSU Tigers. Now, I understand they had what? They got Burrow, they got Chase, they got a whole bunch of talent on that offense. I understand that, but his system deserves a lot of credit there, man. That was one fun offense to watch at the college level with football. It was absolutely astounding, and it's something that was highly coveted in his entry into the NFL. The first team I think to pounce on him was the Carolina Panthers, right? That one kind of ended in disaster. He kind of stumbled his way into the NFL, working with lackluster talent at the quarterback position, not much talent outside of Christian McCaffrey. Really tough to revolve around, and ultimately, I think the Panthers stupidly moved on from him a little bit too soon. Next up, he goes to the Buffalo Bills. Now he's got a Josh Allen. Now he's got, talent in terms of Stephon Diggs and an offense that can move the ball. And we saw some things happen, right? Wildly. I would say you could label this as a wildly successful season for Joe Brady. in terms of his coaching career. Sure, quarterbacks coach, and sure, I will say a lot of people will point out that Josh Allen had some turnover issues this season. I think that's going to happen, right? Especially moving on from Dable. He's got a new guy in there. They're trying to work out some of the details, whatever. It feels like Joe Brady, despite all of that, his scheme was rock solid. And it's something that I think Chargers fans should get very excited for if we were to pursue this. First, he's got to accept an interview. But if the Chargers bring this man into the building, everybody start with the golf claps, right? That would be something extremely exciting because the system that this man runs, monstrously successful, spread, wide, quarterback, wide receiver focused. It's a fun offense to watch. I mean, honestly, just look at the Bengals a little bit, right? Look at the Bills, obviously. These teams love to pass the football, and they're very, very good at it. Sure, maybe the Chargers have to add, subtract, whatever, figure out their talent in terms of what they'll need to revolve around that system, but that is a fun system to watch. And when you pair it with a guy like Justin Herbert, oh my. He's turning out to be one of my favorites. Honestly, I didn't know if the Chargers would go after this. Honestly, I felt like there was such a focus on one area or the other. Joe Brady, I feel like he was interviewed with the Chargers back when Staley first signed. Now he's getting another interview for OC. We'll see if that translates in terms of a interview and a hiring. But Joe Brady would be one of my favorites for the Chargers to potentially sign at OC. And I'm going to give him an OC chance of like 35%. I would say it goes up a little bit once he accepts an interview, but in terms of his pedigree, his background, what he can do in terms of what the Chargers have to offer in personnel and players, I think Joe Brady would be a slam dunk. I really, really do. And again, it's one of those things where you translate it from team to team. It feels like the Chargers are a great team for him to pair up with. Justin Herbert's a great quarterback for him to pair up with, and it would make the Chargers offense a heck of a lot more fun to watch. You guys are asking for creativity in terms of the passing game. Well, there it is on a Joe Brady size platter. And that would be a very fun one for Chargers fans to watch. So in the comment section below, let me know what you guys think of these OC candidates, what the Chargers have done so far. Again, all of these guys are confirmed to link to the Chargers one way or another. Some of them have interviewed. Some of them have accepted interviews. Some of them were waiting to hear an answer. Joe Brady hasn't said yes yet, but he's also not said no. So we have to wait and see what his decision there is. And let me know what some of your favorites are. I want two answers from you guys. I want one answer as to who you want the Chargers to sign in terms of OC and who you think the Chargers are going to sign at OC. At this point, I think I want the Chargers to sign Joe Brady. I think that would be a very fun system to watch. I think the Chargers more than likely go with Zach Robinson. That's going to be my answer for that. So you guys let me know in the comment section below what your thoughts are. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. Remember to sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Match your first deposit up to $100 when using code DIRECTOR on your first deposit. It should be a fun time this weekend. As a little birdie told me that if you check out their Discord, right, you download the app and all that kind of stuff, check out their Discord. There's a little form that you can find in there that gives you a booster for this weekend's game. I think they vote on the player, but either way, a booster is very valuable. It's pretty much a for sure hit, and that thing multiplies your money by a ridiculous amount, so it should be a good time. Anyway, guys, let me know in the comment section below your thoughts. We'll catch you this weekend, and as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Joe Brady to the Chargers. Talk about a complete turnaround in terms of watchability for the Chargers offense.